Hello everyone, my name is Nick and today I'll be presenting my dissertation research. So my dissertation explored how visible tattoos and piercings influence clients' perceptions of counsellors. And this was particularly through the lens of Carl Rogers' person-centered therapy. But before I dive in, I want to ask you a quick question. What kinds of jobs can tattooed professionals on the left-hand side of this slide do? Now let's think for a moment. What kind of jobs can non-tattooed professionals on the right-hand side do? If you thought of different answers, why do you think that is? This simple question brings us right into the heart of my research. What does a professional look like? And how do we as a society judge someone based off of that appearance? In the case of tattoos and piercings, these judgments are particularly relevant in certain fields, such as healthcare and mental health, where trust, empathy, and professionalism are key to the job role. So, a bit of background: tattoos and piercings have existed for over 8,000 years. They've held deep cultural, spiritual, and personal meanings across societies. From the sacred markings on ancient Egyptian women to protect them during childbirth, to the body art of indigenous tribes in North America. In many early cultures, they weren't just decorative. They were protective, symbolic, and served as markers of status or even identity. But not all cultural meanings have been positive. In East Asia, tattoos were long associated with criminals and social outcasts. And even today, in some cultures, they still carry that stigma. But in recent years, body art has become increasingly mainstream. Once seen as a sign of deviance or rebellion, tattoos and piercings are now a common form of self-expression, and is especially evident among the younger generations. Yet despite this cultural shift, tattoos still carry a degree of stigma in professional settings, as well as piercings. And multiple studies have shown that body modifications can evoke negative stereotypes, with people associating them with traits like unprofessionalism, less competence, and even less trustworthiness. This led the research into the direction of how tattoos impact the therapeutic relationship. And this is especially important in counseling, as trust, empathy, and authenticity are fundamental to successful therapeutic outcomes. Therefore, we question, do visible tattoos on a therapist create a barrier, or could they actually enhance the client's experience? So this study was grounded in Carl Rogers' person-centered therapy. Carl Rogers identified 3 core conditions that support effective therapy. So unconditional positive regard, empathy, and congruence. UPR refers to the counselor's acceptance of the client without conditions of judgment, and this is regardless of the thoughts or feelings expressed during sessions. And Rogers defined the use of empathy in counselling as the ability to understand the client's thoughts, feelings, and challenges from the client's frame of reference. Congruence involves the therapist being genuinely themselves, while maintaining a clear awareness of their own experiences and emotions. So each of these core conditions requires the therapist to be genuine, accepting, and deeply attuned to their client's experience. So a key question arises: can a therapist's physical appearance, especially if they have visible tattoos and piercings, interfere with how clients perceive these core conditions? In addition, we also examined the client's willingness to engage in therapy and the likelihood of forming a strong therapeutic rapport, as Rogers emphasized the central role of the therapeutic relationship and considered engagement as a critical factor for therapeutic success. So, given the rising popularity of body modifications and the influence of appearance in professional contexts, my study aims to explore whether tattoos and piercings affect how clients perceive a therapist's empathy, authenticity, and non-judgment, in addition to their willingness to engage in therapy and their likelihood of building a strong therapeutic relationship. Therefore, this research aimed to answer a key question: do visible body modifications negatively impact how clients perceive counsellors across these 5 dimensions? Based on previous literature, it was hypothesized that tattooed and pierced therapists would be rated less favorably across all 5 dimensions. So this study used a mixed methods design, combining both qualitative and quantitative approaches through an online questionnaire hosted on the SciToolkit platform. A total of 173 participants completed the survey, and they were recruited through opportunity sampling. They were members of the UK general public, all over the age of 18, and recruitment was done via social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and X. In addition, up to 50 participants were also recruited from the psychology school's SONA system at Bangor University in exchange for course credit. The sample included a wide range of identities: 40 men, 119 women, 8 non-binary individuals, and 2 who preferred not to disclose. The average age was just over 29, ranging from 18 to 87 years old. Participants viewed a series of counsellor images that differed by the presence or absence of visible tattoos and piercings. The photos featured a diverse mix of ethnicities and genders, including a white woman, an Indian man, an Asian woman, and an Arab man. And this was designed to reflect the real-world diversity of therapeutic settings and enhance ecological validity. Each participant rated multiple images, with the independent variable being the type of body modification displayed. So as you can see in these photos, it was either no body modifications, tattoos only, piercings only, or both tattoos and piercings. However, due to visibility issues on some devices, the piercings only condition was later excluded from the analysis. Participants rated each counsellor on 5 dependent variables. So this was congruence, empathy, UPR, therapeutic relationship, and willingness to engage. These were measured using 5-point Likert scale items. For example, this person will be non-judgmental and accepting as a counsellor, or I would like this person to be my counsellor. Control variables such as sex, gender, age, ethnicity, and prior counselling experience were also recorded. Finally, participants had the option to leave open text feedback, giving qualitative insights into their views. So on to the results. Contrary to the original hypothesis, tattooed therapists were not rated significantly lower on any of the 5 dimensions. In fact, they were rated significantly higher in unconditional positive regard. No significant differences were found for congruence, empathy, rapport, or willingness to engage in therapy. So let's unpack what these mean. So one of the most significant findings from this study was the lack of negative perceptions towards tattooed therapists. While previous research has often linked visible tattoos to reduced professionalism or trustworthiness, my results found no significant differences across 4 of the 5 measured dimensions. Interestingly, tattooed therapists were rated significantly higher in unconditional positive regard, meaning they were seen as more non-judgmental and accepting. And this suggests that body art may not act as a barrier in the therapy room. Instead, it could be interpreted by clients as a signal of openness or relatability. These findings challenge assumptions that body modifications diminish a counselor's perceived competence. Instead, they support the idea that clients are more attuned to relational dynamics, like warmth or presence and acceptance, than external appearance. Additionally, the absence of negative perceptions in areas such as empathy and authenticity suggests that visible tattoos do not interfere with how core therapeutic conditions are perceived. This highlights the importance of how therapists relate to clients, rather than how they look. Ultimately, the findings suggest that visible tattoos may not detract from, and might even support, effective therapeutic relationships. So this study reflects potential broader cultural shifts. So over the past few decades, visible tattoos have shifted from being seen as symbols of rebellion to being widely accepted as expressions of identity, creativity, and even personal experience. And this shift is particularly evident among younger adults, who are more likely to have tattoos themselves and view them as normal or even meaningful. Media representations, including celebrities, athletes, and influencers, have played a key role in normalizing body art, presenting tattoos as fashionable and emotionally expressive rather than unprofessional. And in professional settings, particularly within the mental health and counselling field, these changing attitudes may influence how clients perceive a therapist's appearance. Where tattoos once might have evoked skepticism, they may now create a sense of approachability or shared understanding. As this cultural shift continues, it becomes increasingly important for counsellors and mental health professionals to consider how evolving social norms interact with traditional expectations of professionalism. So, what does this mean for the field of counselling? So, this research offers important insights for the counselling profession as it challenges outdated assumptions about therapists' appearance and professionalism. It provides empirical evidence that visible tattoos do not negatively affect clients' perceptions of core therapeutic conditions. However, this is only suggested. And in fact, tattooed counsellors were viewed as significantly more non judgmental and accepting, and this is seen as central to building a strong therapeutic relationship. These findings suggest that body modifications may not only be acceptable in clinical settings, but could also support rapport building, particularly with clients who value authenticity or shared similar experiences. And this study encourages a more flexible and inclusive understanding of professional identity in counselling, allowing therapists to express themselves without fear of undermining clients' trust. It also highlights the need for practitioners to remain sensitive to individual client values while being open to conversations about appearance. And this would ultimately support more ethical, respectful, and client-centered practice. However, the study isn't without limitations. While the study provides valuable insights, several limitations should be acknowledged. So firstly, the use of static images could have limited the ecological validity of the findings. So real-life therapeutic relationships are built on dynamic, ongoing interactions involving tone of voice, body language, verbal responses, and even emotional presence, none of which can be captured through a still photograph. This makes it difficult to determine how body modifications might be perceived within the context of an actual counselling session, where other interpersonal qualities could either amplify or diminish the influence of appearance. Secondly, there were minor inconsistencies across some of the images used, particularly in facial expressions. For example, one counsellor displayed a neutral expression, while the others were all smiling. Smiling is known to enhance perceptions of warmth and trustworthiness, which may have influenced participants' ratings independently of the tattooed presence. While efforts were made to standardize visual features, these subtle variations may have introduced unintended bias into the results. Thirdly, the original design intended to evaluate tattoos and piercings equally. However, due to poor visibility of small facial piercings on mobile devices, the piercings only condition had to be excluded. This reduced the study's ability to fully assess how different types of body modifications independently influence client perceptions. So, to address these limitations, future research could adopt more immersive and ecologically valid methods, such as using videos, role plays, or even stimulated counseling sessions. Also, exploring how tattoos interact with therapist variables like gender, ethnicity, and age could provide deeper insights, especially since appearance biases often intersect with identity. Lastly, future research could examine a wider variety of body modifications, including piercings, stretched ears, or scarification, to assess how they impact client perceptions. In summary, this study contributes to a more inclusive understanding of what it means to be a professional in counselling. It challenges outdated norms by showing that visible tattoos do not hinder and suggests that even may even enhance perceptions of acceptance in therapeutic settings. Ultimately, it suggests that what matters most to clients may not be how a therapist looks, but how they show up with empathy, authenticity, and unconditional positive regard. Thank you for your time and for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments below. Thank you.